I believe everyone knows who Barack Obama is. He was the first black president in the United States. A while back, I had a client who asked me what it felt like for Africans to see Barack Obama in office for the term that he was in office. And this was my answer. It was pride. The fact that Barack Obama had African heritage directly rooted in Kenya, East Africa at that, we were so proud, we're so proud that one of us was able to hold an office in such a high place. We were so proud to see that one of us could, be the president of the United States. This is not something that everyone can aspire to, that everyone can be. But seeing someone like him do it just made it seem like anything was possible for us. And it gave us such a sense of pride, It gave us a sense of, it was like a shift. We knew that anything was possible. We knew that, hey, you know what? The world's now looking at us, we can do it all. And this also goes to show that representation is very important, no matter where you are, no matter where it's coming from. Seeing people like you do things that you think you didn't or couldn't do creates a huge shift in someone's life. So this brings me to my point. There's a lady in the UK called Kemi Badenoch. I think they're going to pronounce her name differently, so I hope I don't butcher it. She is a British Nigerian politician who has sold her people out. Not literally. Stay tuned. Hi there, my name is Janita Maaya. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Let's dive right in. Now, if you've been on the internet, you probably know of this woman, Kemi Badenoch. She is a British conservative politician, born to Nigerian parents as the Secretary of State for Business and Trade and Minister for Women and Equalities. But recently, she actually won the vote to lead a certain political party in the UK. I don't want to go into the politics so much. My main point is why I'm bringing her on board is that this lady has been seen on the internet saying things. When you hear her speak, okay, someone can speak like that, but then you get to see who is speaking, and it is an African, mind you. It is an African British woman saying all this. She has downplayed systematic racism. She has downplayed the effects of colonialism. She challenges the ideas of representation and so much more. Now, when you look at this lady, you may think, hey, as a young African girl, if I see someone like her who has done amazing, by the way, politically, she's done amazing. She's won the votes. She is leading a particular party in parliament, the opposition party actually in parliament. I would look at her and be like, oh my God, I feel represented, right? This is a fellow black woman in a space that, most black women don't get into, or in a space that doesn't even celebrate black people, right? So me looking at her, I would want to feel proud and I would want to feel represented. But when you take a double take and look at this woman, this is not what she represents. I want you guys to watch a clip of her when she's talking about colonialism, and then we get to it.
This is the past. We need to talk about the future. There are many countries now who want to use guilt to try and exploit the UK. They ask for reparations. I saw it as a trade minister. It's not culture wars. I was at the WTO. I won't name the minister from another country. And he was telling me that we needed to give up some of the things that we were doing because of colonialism and because they needed time to develop. These arguments are a scam. Don't fall for it. We need to make sure that we put this country first. We work well with our neighbors. We work well with other countries, but we have to look after ourselves too.
Well, those advocating for reparations would say, shouldn't we just make up for some of the damage we did through the slavery? As a black woman saying that, they may find that hard to understand from you.
Well, there are many things that the British Empire got wrong. But there are many amazing things that the British Empire also did. And we need to be honest about that and stop pretending that it was all bad. The British Empire ended slavery, the Atlantic slave trade. We need to talk about that more.
This lady stood up there and said reparations are just distractions. We need to stay. She and her people need to stay focused and save their country first, because her, as an African, as a Nigerian, born to Nigerian parents, does not believe that repatriations need to exist, does not believe in the effects of colonialism. She's all about, let's move forward. She's all about, let's concentrate on our people. It didn't happen. Even if it did, move on. But I feel like that's what she's trying to say. That's my interpretation. It's more like, you know what? It happened. You were colonized. You went through such a brutal system. You were discriminated against. It all happened. You need to suck it up. Get on with your life and forget everything that has happened. That's what she's basically telling people. Her fellow people, mind you, right? Now, let me ask you guys a tough question. How can the British end colonialism when they started it? Like, when you watch this clip, she's basically telling us that, hey, the British are not to blame for this. Like, we need to get it on. We need to move forward, and just get on with our lives, because that's what she's trying to tell us, It's basically like trying to slap a band-aid on a wound that hasn't healed. Let me give you guys the imagery. When you have a wound, you have to let it heal, it dries up, and then there's like that thing that you don't have to remove, but most people do remove. But imagine you have a fresh wound and then you just slap on a band-aid and be like, boo-hoo, get better. The wound is fresh, the wound is open. People are still reliving what happened with colonialism. We still live in the effects of colonialism, by the way. I'll take Uganda, for example. Our whole system is built on the British colony. Sorry, we are a British colony. But our whole system is built on Britain, right? Because they colonized us. Everything that we do, the English that we speak, our education system, our law system, how our parliament is all, it just mirrors Britain. I wouldn't, of course, the things that are our own, but most of the things that we do are things of our colonizers, because those are the systems that they put in place for us. And most countries haven't moved on for that, by the way. I mean, fine, most countries, well, most African countries did get their independence. Some recently got their independence, but on the African continent, independence has been a word that has been swung around. Everyone just says, oh, we got independence. But when you think about it, did we actually get independence, or is that just a fancy word to kind of cover up what is underneath everything? I don't want to get too much into colonialism. What I want to get into is this black woman who is meant to represent her people in a place like that, and then she goes ahead and does something that is not what you would expect from her. And by the way, if you look around in your inner circle, I'm sure you've seen people who act like they could easily sell you out in a heartbeat, right? When you see how people downplay other people, when you see how people downplay other people's cultures, what does that say? You're not fighting for your fellow people. You talk down on them. You put away their concerns like, oh, it didn't happen. Speaking of concerns, Miss Kemi or Mrs. Kemi has said statements like racism doesn't exist or white privilege isn't real. I'll repeat that. Mrs. Kemi has said that racism doesn't exist, mind you, or white privilege isn't real. And these are statements that contradict the experience of most people who have lived through certain things like that. Because if you, from the people that I talk to, people in the UK or people abroad, when they tell you of their experiences and what they've had to go through, when you tell someone, oh, could you give me an example of something you've experienced that's racist, and you hear what she has to describe as racism, and you're just like, oh my god, that's a bit passive aggressive. Like, what do you mean someone just looks at you and decides not to offer you service because of your skin color, or hold the bag tighter on train, or not sit next to you on a train, or you're just thinking like, oh, white privilege doesn't exist, or because most times when people are white, they get certain things that you, if you're my skin tone, wouldn't be able to get. This is downplaying the experiences of the people who have gone through so much, and seeing her in a position that could elevate their lives is now a nightmare. Because I'm sorry to say, but if you're a black person saying all this in front of a bunch of white people, they're gonna clap their hands. You heard the video, they clap their hands, and I'm sorry, they look at you like a fool, because no white person is gonna come there and tear down their counterparts. They won't do that. Because if you look at, I'm not big on UK politics, but if you look at the Prime Minister of the UK, the Indian guy who just left, you never hear him speak badly about his fellow Indians. No, he just keeps quiet about it. I don't understand her agenda on why she has to speak poorly on her people, yet it doesn't make sense. I want you guys to watch a clip of her talking about Nigeria.
I was born here, but I grew up in a place where fear was everywhere. You cannot understand it unless you've lived it. Triple checking that all the doors and windows are locked, waking up in the night at every sound, listening as you hear your neighbors scream as they are being burgled and beaten, and wondering if your home will be next.
Now, you've had her talk about Nigeria in such, I'm seeing the comments and people were so shocked. They're like, which country is that? Where let me just read some of the comments. People are talking about how those are white lies. Then someone is saying Nigeria hasn't been worse like that. Like, the way she was explaining it, it's like when people come like, oh yeah, Africa, there are no lights, there's no, we're living in hearts of things like that. It's experiences like that when you hear, like, if I'm going out there, I feel like I would sell my country in the best light. Why am I saying all these things about this said country? How is that going to help anyone? How is that going to help my people? And speaking with representation, I highly believe that representation comes with accountability. You can't, I feel like you just can't act anyhow when you go to certain places, like you can't be a black person in a leadership position like that if you're so disconnected from the realities of your people. Then who are you representing at the end of the day? I understand she has a job to do, and I guess to her she's done it so well, but at the end of the day we have to hold people like that accountable. You just can't be moving mad. Watch this.
Let's get your immediate sentiments about Kemi Badenoch.
We must, in politics and in every sphere of our society, have the right representation, because for the longest time, the norm has been just having white people. So to see that the lineup of ethnic minorities, whether it was Kemi Badenoch, Rishi Sunak, Sadi Javid, Nadine Zahawi, to put themselves forward, representation, that is good. But the next crucial step has to be substance. And so when it comes to substance, the question has to be, why should I vote for you? Because I'm not going to vote and support you simply because we share the same race, gender, sex, ethnicity. My vote is way too precious for that, because my vote is the most powerful form of a democratic representation that I have. When you see what Kemi stands for, that for me is everything I've been fighting against, everything I've been campaigning against. So whether it's on the issue that she has made the cornerstone of her political career and her campaign for prime minister, her cornerstone is based on culture war, is based on being anti-woke, is based on denying systemic racism exists in the United Kingdom, in undermining LGBT plus rights. This goes against what I believe. So I'm like, how can I possibly support somebody who is bringing up issues that I know I stand against? Because if this was a different politician, it was a white politician, I did the same with Boris Johnson, I would speak out against them. People are excited because, okay, it's an ethnic minority, okay, it's a woman. Again, that's representation. But you need to be looking at substance, people. You need to be taking a look at, what they stand for, their competencies and policies. And if that does not match up with what you believe, how can you possibly support it? Kemi Badenoch right now, racists and white supremacists have found a kindred spirit in her, because she denies systemic racism exists, because she says things like white privilege should not be taught as a contested fact. Because each time she speaks about Nigeria, if you listen to her when she speaks about Nigeria, she talks about Nigeria in very disparaging tone. Yeah. None of the other contenders speak disparagingly of India, Pakistan, or Iraq. So why does she always do this? This is what you should be thinking about. So whether she gets to the next best position in the cabinet or she becomes prime minister, I think what you will find is that Kemi Badenoch is strategically using her Black identity, using herself as a voice for the culture war, a voice for the far right to drive her ambition. Ambition is not a bad thing. I mean, Nigerians, we are very ambitious, right? Yep. And when you talked about, your ambition should not come at the cost of throwing people under the bus. And some people watching this right now will go, oh, you just don't like her because she has a difference of opinion. No, this is not about a difference of opinion. I think James Baldwin, the American author, put it best. He said, we can disagree and still love each other, except where your disagreement denies my humanity and basically is promoting my oppression. That is no longer a difference of opinion. What Kemi Badenoch does is racial gatekeeping. Mm-hmm. What she's doing is racial gatekeeping. And that I would not stand for. The same energy I used to fight and campaign against racists is what I'm going to use to campaign against what she stands for.
All right, Dr. Shallow, I'm reaching desperately for some positives here. I mean, of course, we were having a conversation in the studio before you came on. Let's get a fair assessment from you on her role as former equalities minister. For people on the outside, is there anything you could say she did right or well in that capacity?
Are you kidding me? Listen, Kemi was a former minister of equalities. Do you know what I call her? I call her the minister of no equalities. In her role, she, as I said, she denies systemic racism exists. She undermined LGBT plus rights. And she's meant to be the minister of equality. She did not do anything positive as minister for equalities. That's the point. There's a wide range of issues that pertains to her. She supports the Rwanda policy to take people who are vulnerable and to drive them off to Rwanda, to treat them so inhumanely.
You've had the lady. I feel like I like how she's so passionate about it. And representation needs to come with accountability. Just because you're being represented in a certain place doesn't mean you need to go and act how you want to act. Now, let's talk about betrayal. Her dismissal of everything that her people go through, racism, and saying things like white privilege isn't real, it feels like a betrayal for every Black person out there. Because it's just like, how can you go out there to represent us and then you act like you don't see what's happening on ground, like the Kenyans say it, like you can't just erase everything that has happened to your people and think by just turning a blind eye and deciding to move forward, then everything is fine. I feel like people have to be realistic with the issues on ground. People have to know that you can't just dismiss what people's feelings. You can't just do it. It's like saying, it's like going to the top alone. How are you getting to the top without thinking of your people? How are you getting to the top without coming up with ways to how to get your people to the top? I mean, obviously no one is obligated to do that, but it's just like being African is thinking of families, thinking of being together. It's thinking of being one. It's a community, Being African is not being just an individual. It's your community is important to you, right? I do want you guys to watch this clip before we close this one.
That there will come a time when Black people wake up and become intellectually independent enough to think for themselves, as other humans are intellectually independent enough to think for themselves. Then the Black man will think like a Black man, and he will feel for other Black people. And this new thinking and feeling will cause Black people to stick together. And then at that point, you'll have a situation where when you attack one Black man, you are attacking all Black men. And this type of Black thinking will cause all Black people to stick together. And this type of thinking also will bring an end to the brutality inflicted upon Black people by white people. And it is the only thing that will bring an end to it.
You've had it right there. I like the statement he said. When you attack one Black man, you're attacking all Black men. We need to think as one. We need to come together. I'm saying this because I know one day someone watching this here is gonna get into a leadership position. I hope that when you do get into a leadership position, you do right by your people and stop acting. Okay guys, I think that's it. That's it. I've come to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching this with me. Please like, comment, subscribe, do all the nice things, and yeah, purchase my merch. Uganda looks good on me. Uganda is calling, so I must go. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I say it all the time, I am a student of life. I am here to learn, and to learn with you guys. I'm taking you on this journey of teaching and exposing and learning. So it's been fun. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.